Hello. Anybody out there? Can anybody hear me? Is anybody home? Hello. Here, let's try this light. There we go. A little bit better light. I look kind of scary, I think. Hey, let's try it like this. I am the great and powerful Oz. Hello. Anybody out there? There we go. All right. Let's see. I think I'm all set. I think today it might be a little bit more together. I got to remember to look at the camera. Anybody there? Can you guys see me? Hi. Hold on. Can you hear me? Yeah, fun times. Well, I don't have much. For those of you who noticed that my virtual screen is kind of popping in and out a little bit. I am not in the studio today. Today, the Johnson Photo Imaging is closed, so I wasn't able to use the studio there today. It's 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day, rebel scum. So hope you all are having a wonderful, happy 4th of July. For those of you who are just tuning in, my name is Foto Dono, or at least my name is Donovan. Everyone calls me Foto Dono or Dono. But, sometimes listen to Darren, Dave, Steve, and a few other things as well too. Today's topic is going to be about fireworks, apropos, since it being today's Independence Day. So yeah, we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But I want to get a couple of housekeeping things out of the way. So for those of you, again, these are for people who stream or just starting in or just tuning in, that type of stuff, just to give you kind of some ideas of some of the things that I like to do. First of all, if anyone who's interested, you're more than welcome to help me out. I have a Patreon account, and I also have, you can also leave me a digital tip on PayPal if you like. I'll leave the links in the video once the video finishes processing. So if you want to, you can always check back there and take a look at it. So that's up to you guys. Keep in mind, if you want to, I would always recommend, if you can't, if you don't want, helping me out, you're more than welcome to, as I said, pass it on last time. So, for me, if you see a charity or pass on some kindness to the next person, just do that instead. That would certainly make the world a little bit better place. So there we go. But yeah, anything you can do to help out, that would be most appreciative. I do these Foto Dono live, so these are completely I do these completely on my own. With I have no backers other than my Patreon subscribers and the few digital tips I do get. So anything's helpful. If you also can too, as well, is I think it's there. Yeah, there we go. It should be right over there, I think. Or is it over there? It's hard to tell. But anyway, there should be a button below here somewhere on the YouTube screen for where you can subscribe and like this one. The more subscribers I get, the more if I at least get 100 subscribers, that's really all I'm looking for. Is that way then I can name the YouTube channel Foto Dono. Right now it's just a string of ones and zeros, a bunch of alphanumerics, and the idea is I'd like to give it its own name. Now, occasionally today, since I'm recording this from home or I'm streaming this live from home, you'll probably hear a small woodland creature. We call it Toby, and you'll probably hear him in the background barking his head off. I'll try to keep it down to a minimum if we can. And if we're lucky, we'll have a surprise. We'll have a surprise guest star if I can ever tear him away from his Nintendo Switch game. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing my screen with you all. So I'm going to turn this off because you won't need this. So I think it's too bright of a light and too scary. So, all right, I'm going to share my screen. And also got the YouTube channel up there. Oh, good. There's people popping up on the YouTube channel. All right. Well, hey, Kevin, how you doing? Hey, John, happy 4th to you as well. All right. So let me go to my desktop here. Let's see. And we're going to go to my keynote. And I'm going to click a play. Oh my goodness. It's all these Zoom buttons. These Zoom buttons get in the way of everything. You know that? You notice that? All right. So, oops. Let's try this one more time. There we go. Okay, I think that'll do it. All right. There we go. All right. Well, I think I finally got the right buttons pushed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little brief thing about some of the things that are upcoming real quick here. So hopefully you guys won't mind as I stream through this real quick. As those of you who don't know, I am the Director of Education at Johnson Photo Imaging. You can always go to www.johnsonphotoimaging.com or jpiphoto.com, and you can always look up some of the classes that I'm going to mention here. Right now, I'm teaching most of the classes, although I do have some guest speakers coming up in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully you guys will be able to tune in and take a look at that. For those of you who would like some private help or need some help with lessons and tutorials, we offer private lessons right now currently online. For most of that stuff, we are doing some in-store private lessons after hours as well too. So if you guys are interested in that, let us know. So I'll be glad to help you out with that. I'm also going to be teaching a couple of classes: camera basics, beyond camera basics, and light basics working with flash. These will be starting, and the goal is to try to do these at least about once a month, or maybe every other month for some of them. And the idea is to try to bring these out so that way you guys can get some some helpful tips and hints. I know what I said, but I'm not going to say it again. I'm going to say tips and hints again. So if you guys are interested in that type of stuff, if you are looking for some help, but if it's your first camera, your first thing, you go to Camera Basics. If you feel like you feel pretty comfortable with the camera, you're more than welcome to sign up for Beyond Camera Basics. And Light Basics work with flash is basically about dealing with lighting in general. Got some special online events that's coming up. We got the Sony Mirrorless group that's going to be meeting. This is actually going to have a guest speaker from Capture One, and conveniently enough, Capture One's also going to be doing one with the Nikon shooters. And I'm also got him to do a guest speaking event for the Low Light group also coming up. So as you can see on the screen, it's July 7th, July 14th, and July 21st. All these are at 6:30 in the evening. Later on, we got the Low Light photo group on July 30th at 6:30 as well too. There is an unpublished one on the meetup group. And what does that mean? What does that mean? The meetup group? Well, we have several social media sites that I do promote some of these classes and some of these events. Some are through the Johnson Photo Imaging, some are through me personally. And I run these meetup groups and also the group that's on Facebook. And if you're interested in joining those, you can always look us up that way. There's a Low Light photo group on Meetup. There's the Brainted photo group also on Meetup as well. This is where I share information about some of the classes. Like this Foto Dono Live, I pretty much post on the photo Brainted photo group. There's also an unpublished contest that's going on. Your favorite favorite photo of your pet. So there's a photo contest going on for that, and I'm giving away some prints and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested in that, you can always go check that out and sign up through there. The contest is only through Meetup. That's the only way you're going to be able to help out with that. So you'll have to sign up for that and do that. I'm giving away a 16 by 20 canvas print. I'm giving away a 16 by 20 fine art print and a premium pearl 16 by 20 pearl print of your favorite pet photo. It has to be your pet, not somebody else's pet. Wait, where's my finger? It has to be your pet, not somebody else's pet. There we go. So anyway, so there's that's going on. So if you guys are interested, go to the Brainted Photo Group meetup. The Low Light photo group, well, we're going to be doing a couple of things. And one of the things that's not published is because it's we're going to try to do a Milky Way event later on this month, July 18th and July 18th. Yeah, something like that. It's on a weekend, so there we go. So, I'd have to go look it up again. So if you guys are interested in doing that, by all means, you're more than welcome to join us on that. My goal is to head out to the Big Cypress Swamp and try to get some photos out there. So yeah, so if you guys are interested in doing that, just head on over to the low light photo group, and we'll be doing something right over there. I also will post this information on the low light photo group on Facebook. You think, why isn't there a Bradenton photo group Facebook page? Well, it's because there's only so much that one man can do. The other thing too is if you're interested, we also find out more about some of the stuff I do. You can follow me along on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I have the Twitter thing, and I do use it occasionally, but mainly it's Instagram and Facebook is where I do most of this posting of all these things that you guys, if you guys are interested in. So, by the way, check that out. Again, the tag for that is at Foto Dono. All right. Also, too, you can always check out some of the stuff that I've been doing at website at www.foto.com. I've also got a link to my Patreon account on there. It's listed under classes and stuff like that, so you can more or less check that out. All right. Now, these things are normally about 30 minutes. So at least that's what my goal is, to make it 30. Sometimes I go off topic a little bit. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer. So I'm going to try to keep this kind of sweet and to the point, hopefully today. I shouldn't drag on too much, hopefully. So excuse me for the water there. I'm going to talk a little bit about settings and equipment, okay? So when you're dealing with your cameras and stuff like that, we'll get to the equipment and stuff, but I really want to talk about cameras. Really what you need is an SLR system or a mirrorless camera system, something with an interchangeable lens system. Can you use phones? Of course you can, especially the newer iPhones that are out there, the Android phones and the new Google, whatever it's called these days, the Google Pix, whatever it's called. And you can also use those as well too. I do recommend, however, that you use tripods for any of these things. You are limited what you can get with some of those phones. If you're trying to get a little bit more detail, more realization, this all deals with a number of things, but mainly about the size of the sensor. The bigger the sensor, the more data you can collect, as a rule. Doesn't mean it has to be ginormous. It just means it has to be big enough to collect enough data that makes it more palatable. There are three things that you're going to have to do. A couple of things, actually. You're going to make sure the camera's on manual, and you also have to make sure it's on manual focus. If it's on manual focus, you'll have to make sure everything's in focus before you take the picture. How do you do that? Well, you just look through the viewfinder, look at your live screen, make sure everything's in focus. Well, Dono, it's dark out there. How am I supposed to tell? You just find a pinpoint of light that's about the quick approximate amount. That's basically the easiest way to do it. Some of you have live view where you can actually do called focus peaking, so that helps out. Sometimes some of you have what they call a live boost, which means it tries to boost the screen so it appears to be lighter, so you can see to focus as well. Again, these are just tools to help you out, but really anybody who's got control of their focus, just find a point of light that's roughly about the same distance. From that. Usually it's towards infinity, not always, but usually towards infinity is where you're going to be, because usually it's about where you're going to be when you set up for these things. My favorite spot to go shoot these fireworks is at Nathan Benderson Park in Sarasota. I like it because you're fairly close to the fireworks show, no matter where you are along in the park for the most part. You can get by with a 70 to 300 or 70 to 200 approximate lens if you're looking for that. Doesn't matter what lens you have, to be honest with you. You can always crop into it later on. It's the settings that are more important, but if you need a better lens, then I would recommend at least a 200 to 300 millimeter lens. If you're going to be way off in the distance, well, you just need a longer telephoto. That's really how it should go. There's like the P1000 or P900 from Nikon. That's that ultra zoom system that's built into itself. Those things are great and stuff like that. But the problem is with the image stabilization, it tends to drift a bit. So I always recommend, if you can, put it on a tripod and don't use max out the zoom. Try to keep it around 300, 400 millimeters if you can. If you max out the zoom, you're looking at such a teeny tiny little area, and it's going to keep drifting across the screen. So just be mindful of that. Then you want to work on your manual exposure. Now you may ask, how do I turn off the focus? Well, again, you have to explore your camera's options and try to figure out how to turn it off as far as that goes. It's usually pretty straightforward. There's usually a switch on the side of the camera, or it's in the menu system. Like on my Olympus camera, I have a clutch where I basically slide it back and it turns into manual focus. Some of the more entry-level cameras, like the Nikon T3500, have a built-in mechanism in the manual menu system where you have to switch it from autofocus to manual focus, and then you can focus it yourself at that point. So like I said, you're going to have to explore your particular camera and decide how to do it. Autofocus is not going to work because the camera is not going to figure out where the bright spots are for the most part. because the fireworks are going to move around. And if it's using autofocus and you hit the shutter button, what's going to happen? It's going to free focus on something that it can see. And when it does that, when it focuses directly on that, then you're not focusing on the fireworks and you get blurry fireworks. So really, it's not that hard to do, and it takes a little bit longer to explain it. But really, it's just find the switch, find the set up in the menu system, and turn off the manual focus. It's pretty straightforward. Now, manual exposure is pretty straightforward too. You got ISO, you got shutter, and aperture. Now, if you're not familiar with shutter and ISO and aperture, this might be a little bit more for you as far as that goes. But basically, you're going to have to set a manual. But again, the camera in the auto mode is not going to necessarily figure out what's going on out there because it thinks it's dark, so it's going to try to lighten the picture up, and you don't want to do that. You want to, because you don't want to wash out the fireworks. You don't want to underexpose the fireworks. You want to try to keep the fireworks about the same type of thing. This is true for some of the things that we do all the time with some of the low light group, like for the steel wool we did with Cat Fedora last weekend. And also, if you're doing sparklers, say if you're doing a contactless 4th of July celebration, so you're going to be at home, you probably let your own fireworks off. Well, not let your own fireworks off because depending on your region, it may not be allowed. But sparklers are, so sparklers could be used, and I've used those quite a bit. You'll see some examples of that later on. So we're talking about settings. So you got ISO, then you got your aperture, shutter, and then you got this. Your ISO, if you set it manually, take it off of auto, put it on 100. You don't need 300, 800, 500 for fireworks. There's more than enough light for out there to do all this stuff. So just put it there at ISO 100. The aperture, the shutter speed is going to vary depending upon how much streaking of the light you want to get and how many fireworks. So let's say you're shooting with a Nikon or Canon DSLR system or mirrorless system. And what you want to do is you want to be able to photograph some of the fireworks. So the fireworks goes off. Well, how much of it do you want to see the light streaks? How much do you want to see just the pinpoints of light? So the amount of time is going to vary for camera system. Usually you want to keep it about 2 seconds, sometimes 1.3 seconds, but usually right around there. You can go a little bit a little bit slower with about 4 seconds if you want to get a few more extra fireworks, especially if you're doing a one right after another type of thing. And then there's the f-stop. And the reason why that's got a little question mark by it is because, well, f-stops are f-stops. Changing the f-stop is only about controlling the brightness or the intensity of the light. The light is not changing with the fireworks. It might go really bright and then dim out, but how much of that light you're going to see, because that's what the aperture controls, how much is going to control that. As a rule, I vary the aperture depending upon the show that I'm attending. On the average, f8 to f11. That's usually right around there. You'll see some examples again later on. So let's talk about equipment. I need a special effects thing. So when I go, equipment. We're talking about equipment now. That's what we're going to talk about. Snapper to some cameras. Anyway, so we're talking about equipment. So basically you need, like I said, interchangeable lens system. You don't need anything fancy. Like you got this one, here's the Canon 80D. It's a crop sensor with an 18 and 135. That'd be more than adequate for the shooting. Then you've got the tripod. I use the Globetrotter Me Photo. Mine's red. This is titanium, but that's basically what I use. And then for some of you, I would recommend a remote switch. I used just a basic remote switch from before, but some of you might need, because my camera also had an intervalometer built into it as well. My new camera, that was my Nikon D610. My new camera doesn't have a built-in intervalometer. Something that they need to work on in Olympus. That's what I'm saying. I need an intervalometer built into the camera. If you can get me one of my OMD in October, the next firmware update, I'll do forever. Anyway, so the Canon camera, if you have a built-in intervalometer, if an intervalometer, what that means is it's going to keep firing one picture after another, one picture after another. If not, you can buy one. Intervalometers, anywhere, basic what was set will cost you about 110, 120 to about $300 or $400, depending upon the amount of the amount of stuff you want to be able to control. For instance, this one here is for ProMaster on the right. This is a radio one. You could actually plug it in wired into your camera, or you can use the receiver right here, plug that into the camera, and then you can stand back and use the remote here. In the past, what I've used is basically the wired remote, and that worked out fine for most of the pictures. Now, if you don't have an intervalometer, you can always set either remote just to keep firing, basically push down the shutter beam, lock it into place, and it'll just lock that and keep shooting one picture after another. Because that's basically what you want to do. Because there's no way in heck that you can time it very well for that stuff. You just want to develop when you're shooting up. Once you get the tripod set up and you get the settings all done, and you got the remote plugged into it, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to need to figure out what's the kind of timing for this event. So again, what I usually do is I'll set the shutter speed, and if I'm using the one on the right, I'll lock it in there, and it'll take one picture after another, after whatever that shutter speed is, because I don't have to change it. Once the settings are set, the settings are there. I don't have to change it. Now, sometimes I'll probably experiment with the first couple of salvos up there and see how they look, but that's usually fine tuning from that basic guide I gave you guys. And so once that's all set, then I just basically put this to push down the lock, and then basically it'll just keep firing after another. If you're using an intervalometer, then you're going to use that, and then that'll take one picture after another for you as well, too. And if it's radio controlled, well, even better. You could sit back in your chair, push the button, and let it go. And if you're fun and you got little apps, and then the camera is taking a picture, you can actually see the picture start rolling into your app, and so you can watch it doing there. So that's even more fun. Of course, this is all with JPEGs at that particular point if you're using your apps for that type of stuff. Excuse me. So if you're doing stuff like that, the remotes are going to be very slow. Can you do it when you just push the button? Of course you can. But the pictures are not going to necessarily be the sharpest pictures that you're trying to. If you're concerned about sharpness and critical detail, keep in mind these are fireworks. They're never going to be tack super sharp. Sometimes they can be, sometimes they're not. Can you get them super sharp? Of course you can. But usually, as you're just starting out with the stuff, it's not going to be that big of a deal. So just keep that in mind. So when you're dealing with the settings, the best thing I can tell you about this stuff is just play around with that basic guide that I started off with. Hang on one second. So right here. So starting off with this guide right here with an ISO 100, roughly anywhere from 2 to 4 seconds, maybe a little bit shorter. And then choose an aperture that doesn't make it as bright. Again, you'll see some examples of it here momentarily. So just bear with me here. So I'm going to go into the editing. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this particular display right here. I'm going to go into Lightroom and show you some of the pictures that I was working with. No, not that one. Where's Lightroom? Lightroom. Okay, here we go. So you should now be able to see Lightroom in this picture, hopefully. I'll wait just a second, make sure YouTube's doing its job. So you can see in this particular picture, this one's kind of icky. Now it's pretty cool in the way it looks, everything else. What I mean by icky is that basically what's happened is that it's not very soft. You're getting some smoke from the sparklers in the fire pit right there. So it's a little bit off. You're thinking, well, where the flash was off to the side, so the flash was firing remotely with this particular one. But that's just playing around with the sparklers and stuff. I'll get back to some of that stuff later on. So like this particular picture right here. All right. So let me close this up a little bit. Let's see. Let's go to metadata. And we want to go to. All right. So with this particular camera, this was shot at Nikon D610. This was a 75 to 300 millimeter lens. This is at 0.8 seconds at f/25. So with this particular picture that you're looking at right here, you can see right here, this is at 0.8 seconds. So you can see I'm still getting some squigglies right here. And the problem is with this particular picture, let me see if I can show it to you. Oops, that's the one I want. Let's go back to the developed. Oh, come on, guys, move over here. Come on. All right, so this particular picture was off from a distance right here, way off in the distance. This was on top of celery fields. So basically, I just ended up cropping into that picture right there. And these are some of the sparklers I got from back there. If you notice off here to the right here, if you guys can see this, it says it's 0.8 seconds at f/25. So I'm getting some stopped there, but you can see it's kind of soft, not exactly the sharpest tack in the world because I'm a decent distance away. So this was not necessarily the best location to do it. Now the cool thing of being top of celery fields when we're not being restricted by where we can go, is you can see several fireworks going off from anywhere down from almost from Northport all the way up into Bradenton, which is kind of cool because you can see all these little fireworks going, but they're fairly small and off the distance. Again, they mostly look like stuff like oops, like that, like this, things like that. So they're really just off in the distance type of thing. And this was at 300 millimeters as far as that goes. So location is going to be very useful for you as far as that. So if you can, that's what I would try to do is something along those lines. Is try to avoid locations like that. Now, when you go to Nathan Benderson Park, you could be a lot closer. Now, I shot this with a 70 millimeter lens with this particular one. And then you can see right there, this is at 1.6 seconds at f4.5. So it did a pretty good job at figuring that out. Now, this one's the edited one. So let's go to all photographs and see if we can look at the original one. So here's the original one. So this is what it looked like straight from the camera. Now, you might think, well, straight from the camera, la-di-da. Doesn't that look pretty good? Sure, it does. But the problem is you're losing some of the color detail in the picture. This is not due to anything that's wrong with the camera or anything like that. The color's there. It's just not being it's being recorded. It's just getting lost with all the other detail. By enhancing the color a little bit, you can also bring in the details a lot more, a lot more significant. This is not how the firework looked. This is how the firework looked when I was there. So you can kind of see around that. Now, these are some of the examples that I shot at Nathan Benderson Park. And if you keep looking at the pictures right here on this and then the stats over here, they don't really change. Once I got the settings set up, it's at 1.6 at f45 at 70 millimeters. I'm not changing any of the stuff. And you can see right there, I still got a little bit of motion blur at 1.6 seconds. So it's not too terrible that. And you can see since I didn't change the lens or move the lens around, some of the fireworks did go out of shot. Some were in shot. That's going to happen. I might want to move it. I think I did try to move it later on, but most of the time, once I got the thing, I tried not to let it stay there. And these are basically right one after another, after another, after another. The key thing, if you notice right here, like in this particular one, you're dealing with also the smoke that comes from it as well, too. So if the smoke is blowing towards you, you're going to get more and more of that smoke facing you as well, too. So just be mindful about where you're going to be, where's the wind going to go, and stuff like that. So you can see right here in this particular one, there's lots of smoke from all the fireworks that have been going off as far as it goes. Yeah. So again, being in the right spot certainly helps out. So you can see right here, this is actually a series. This was actually one of the little bit longer ones. This was at 3 seconds. And what happened was this, I tried to get as many of the fireworks I could get in one shot. So like here, this is 1.6 seconds. So a bunch of them went off at the same time. So that was lucky right there. Here, they were kind of spread out. So for 3 seconds, I got a bunch of fireworks in there. The ones that got the most amount of the streak went off first. The ones with the least amount of streak went off last. So that kind of gives you, but you can see because since I did that, and you can see there's lots of smoke that's built in there too as well. Again, I'm using the aperture to do all this stuff. So the aperture controls all the brightness and the details of this particular stuff. So again, the picture's sharp. You can see the pictures there. It's fairly sharp. It stopped most of the action right there. Anything that had fired first and within that time frame, we had a little bit of streaking in it. Anything that fired and off at the beginning of the shutter went off, when the shutter opened up, you can see there's a lot more streaking of that as well too. And it's kind of cool. You can even see some of the threads dripping off of the fireworks as they move through the night sky, which I thought was kind of cool. So yeah, so that's a lot of fun stuff right there. Now, one of the things, again, if you're trying to do things like dealing with sparklers and stuff like that, one of the things you got to worry about with sparklers is, and not only that, is this to how can you get shots that work to your benefit. So when dealing with stuff like this, and in fact, let me go back to the all photographs. So here's a picture of my son. Now, what happened was I was trying to get all these sparklers going off at the same time. And I was also playing around with the flash. The flash was off to the left. And so I was trying to get the flash to go off when he was smiling. The trick was to get him to smile at the right spot. So once I got the timing down with the flash, everything else, I did it a couple of times. Okay, so I'm going to count to like 1, 2, 3, smile, and the flash went off. So there we go. We got the flash. But one of the things I forgot to do when I was playing around with this is I forgot to set the color balance. Not a problem. I had actually shot this in RAW, and since I shot it in RAW, I was able to get that. Now, the reason you can see lots of streaks and lots of stuff right there is because I'm shooting this in about 5 seconds, but I'm keeping this at f14. The reason why I'm keeping it at f14 is because I'm trying to keep the brightness of this down. If I open up the aperture more, this would be brighter still. Also, too, if I keep it darker, you'll see less people in the shot because there's another person that's kind of right there behind him. That's my cousin Whitney back there behind my son. Here's the picture when I edited it, when I fixed the color temperature, and I played with the color a little bit just to give it more of a pop. Here's another one, but he was looking in the wrong direction when I said smile. He's smiling there, but yeah. And here we go. Here he's turning the fireworks right in the face when I said, no, 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 you needed to be doing it like that. And so he did it right there. So again, here's my cousin Whitney again. So here we're using some pictures of her. You see people playing with the sparklers behind her, waving behind her. I thought that was worked out pretty good. And then we got something that looks like that. We got Super Whitney there. And here's just basically a little bit of a mess. Just everyone just having a little bit of fun, twirling things around. Kids running around with glow sticks. And you can see right here, this was at 30 seconds at f22. So this is a really long exposure. And I had to go to f22 to try to keep most of the light down as far as that goes. Let's see right here. Where's one that's at super bright? So right here, this is at f14. So, and this is at 5 seconds. This was at f14 at 5 seconds. See how bright this is right here at f14? So this is super bright. I could have brought that down by going down to about, dealing it down with maybe a little bit less of an f-stop as far as that goes. That type of thing. Also would have helped too with this particular shot if he had moved it around a little bit further around. But yeah, that's basically kind of about it. There's really not much more to doing fireworks. It's pretty straightforward stuff. It's really not rocket science. Like the picture you see behind me, this was done with one sparkler. This was done at 30 seconds. That's why you got motion blur in my face. I'm trying to keep myself really steady, but I'm doing this at 30 seconds so we can get the fireworks to go around, all the sparkler to go all the way around me and around everything else. And I forget the exact sense. I was trying to find the original picture of this, the original shot, because I've used this so much with my logo and everything else, and it's out there, but I just can't seem to find it right now. So it's in the mix, as they say. Let's see. There's anybody else? Thank you, man. Look, Lightroom looks good on YouTube. Okay, then let's go. I did keep an eye on the YouTube over here. I'm borrowing my son's computer to do all this stuff, so hopefully everybody can see all this stuff. Let's see, what am I up to? I'm up to about 45 minutes. So see, I ran a little bit over. So again, let's recap. So you need a interchangeable lens system. That would be the preferred method. A decent tripod. Don't get those cheap ass tripods. Cheap ass tripods will just fall apart on you, meaning that they're not going to be very stable or steady. You'll get more motion blur with them. Get a remote control. If you don't have one, just set your camera to the self timer. Yeah, there'll be a slight delay, so you'll miss some. So again, I would recommend using a remote trigger if you possibly can. If you're doing sparklers, it doesn't matter. You can do the self timer and try to get the picture that way. Now, one of the cool things with Olympus is that they also have what's something that's called live composite and live time. Live composites where you can actually build up the image on there. You saw some of that last week with the ones we shot with Cat Fedor. So if you want, you can take a look at the video that I did last week. Yeah, that was a bit of a ramble, but skip towards the end of it. You'll see some of the pictures as far as that goes. So yeah, ISO 100. Your camera doesn't go to 100. What do? Well, you leave it at 200. You don't have to go to 64. You could try 64, but I think 64 might be just a little bit too low. But at least 100 is what you want to work with. Again, you want to be no faster than 4 seconds on there. If you want to go 30 seconds, that's fine. But the problem is that you're not going to get as much of those trails. It'll be kind of like a mishmash, like you saw in that one of those pictures I was showing you with the kids running around with everything. So if you're trying to get more of like something like this, This is one guy walking around me with one sparkler that that lets off lots of sparks that's going off there. I think they're called morning glories. The other thing too, the thing with sparklers, with sparklers, you don't get one of those 10-second sparklers. Those are the ones you get really cheap and they work out really well for you. But the idea is if you get one of those types of sparklers, they're not going to last very long. Get like a morning glory or something like that that's going to last 5 minutes or so. So that way you have some time to play with it. And that way you get maybe one or two shots off. But yeah, that's really about it. Again, ISO 100, shutter speed, roughly 1-ish seconds to about 4 seconds. Pick the aperture that's going to best help you out to help you, keep everything nice and dark, keep these lines behind you nice and crisp as far as it goes. But yeah, pretty straightforward. If you want, try it out. Keep in mind you got digital cameras out there. It doesn't hurt to try as often as you can. Again, if you're staying at home doing some sort of independence holiday at home, by all means. And if you got a bunch of kids, they love playing with sparklers. Set the camera up before they get out there and just see what you can come up with. Sometimes it can be really fun and interesting. The kids will love it. It'll be a hoot, and you get some great memories as a result of it. I know I got some great memories of playing with the sparklers with my son, so it's a lot of fun. Let's see, and that's really all there is. I didn't see any questions that popped up on the YouTube channel, so it's still in there. The laptop that where I could see the YouTube channel is about to die, so I won't be able to see the questions for too much longer. So, hey, hang on 1 second. Let me see if I get a special guest.
Hello, world.
This is my son. World, James, World.
Hello.
That's my special guest. So anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in and checking it out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope it helps you guys out. And now I'm going to go embarrass him further on. So that'll be more fun for me. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Have a happy 4th. Be safe and be well out there. Thanks a lot.